Hello, everyone, and welcome to this training on accessibility. I'm here to talk with you today about why accessibility matters and show you some practical tools that you can start using right away. Whether you're faculty creating course materials, staff managing websites or communications, or working in facilities maintenance or any other role on campus, accessibility applies to the work you do every day. By the end of the session, you'll understand who benefits from accessibility and why it matters, the five most important things to focus on, how to use free tools that are already on your computer, and how to use simple web based tools to check your content. This is a foundational overview. We're going to keep things practical and straightforward. So let's get started. Let's start with the most important question. Who are we doing this for? The simple answer is 1 in 4 adults in the United States has a disability. That's 26% of the population. In higher education, that means students, employees, visitors, and the broader community we serve. Now, when most people think about disability, they picture someone using a wheelchair or someone who is blind. But here's what's important to understand: most disabilities are invisible. We're talking about learning disabilities, ADHD, chronic illness, mental health conditions, and so much more. And here's something else: temporary disabilities happen to everyone. Have you ever broken your arm and tried to type? That's a temporary motor impairment. Ever had an eye infection and struggled with screen brightness? That's a temporary visual impairment. Had an ear infection and needed captions to understand the video? Temporary hearing impairment. Now let's do a few demos. We're going to watch a very brief section of a video about an inaccessible PDF. And then you're going to understand why print to PDF is not a great idea.
Okay, this PDF was saved using print and then save as PDF. When saving a PDF this way, it can make it so the PDF is one giant image. The screen reader won't be able to read it at all. Let's hear what this sounds like.
Window. Alert. Document unavailable. Pane. You are currently on a pane. Alert. Document unavailable. Pane. Content is empty.
Since that PDF was saved using print and then save as PDF, it saved the text as an image, so it is unreadable to assistive technology. Now let's hear a PDF that has readable text but hasn't been tagged and the reading order wasn't checked.
California. Beaches. When you think of California, one of the first things that comes to mind is its beaches. Ride the wave and learn more about what beaches are the most popular and how their temperatures vary. You are currently on its most popular beaches temperatures.
You'll notice the screen reader doesn't announce the type of element like headings or graphics, which takes away the structure. I'm going to play the screen reader again. Take a look at what happens when the same PDF gets to the columns.
According to U.S. News, the top three in the table below, the June 2021 California beaches are temperatures compared for each of the 1, 2.
Because the PDF's reading order is wrong, the screen reader reads the columns from left to right instead of going column by column. Now the PDF is tagged and has the reading order corrected. Tagging the PDF and correcting the reading order can be a tedious process the more complex your documents get. Okay, let's hear the difference.
Heading Level 1, California beaches. When you think of California, one of the first things that comes to mind is its beaches. Ride the wave and learn more about what beaches are the most popular and how their temperatures vary. Heading Level 2, most popular beaches. According to U.S. News, the top three California beaches are 1. Laguna Beach, 2. La Jolla, 3. Malibu Beach. Graphic. Heading Level 2, temperature.
Now, the screen reader announces key structural elements like headings, graphics with their alternative text, and it's reading the columns correctly. As you could tell, even pretty simple PDFs quickly become inaccessible without tagging and the right reading order. So we suggest HTML web pages instead of PDFs whenever possible.
That was a great example of what happens when we aren't careful when we structure our PDFs. Now let's look at this form. This form appears that it is easily fillable, but I have a mouse. Imagine if I didn't have a mouse and I was using just my tab key to get through this. Now notice that so far it's doing pretty good. And now I'm getting down here. Well, how did it get to the top? If you notice now that the keyboard tab key has taken me all the way up to the top, and now it's moving back down again through the form, and it's showing me all the things in my browser, but it's not really filling out the form. If I scroll down here to the bottom, I didn't even get to the submit application. And again, I had to use my mouse in order to get there. If I click on the button here, you're going to see that this is exactly what was wrong with that form. There was no form element, labels were not associated, radio buttons were not set with a legend. These are the things that you may not think about when you're building a form or thinking of using it with a mouse rather than with just a tab key or the keyboard. Now we're going to do three simulations or view three simulations. The first one is going to be a document that needs to be increased to 200%. So let's take a look at what happens with this document. If I make this 200%, you can now see it very easily on the screen. But look what happens when we try to scroll. Look how much scrolling we have to do to try to see parts of this page. This would be miserable for a student who is trying, or anybody else who's trying to find this information. You can't even see the entire. But remember that someone with a visual impairment may need the screen size this big. Now let's look at a low contrast color. Here we have that fabulous light gray text or light gray background with a little bit darker gray text. Notice as we scroll through this horribly designed document that we can only see the things that appear to us in like bright color. Also remember that that red pen that you see may not look red to someone else. So we can tell you, you can see that why color contrast is so important, because it truly does make it very visually difficult to distinguish. And the last thing is someone may need to experience certain areas using a magnifier. So the question is when are final exams? So if I scroll down through here, I might be able to find it. But now let's say we actually had to use a magnifier in order to find that. If I click on this, I don't even know where I'm going. Oh, there's something. So you can see that this is so poorly designed that I can't find the information that I was looking for by using the tool that would help someone who needed a magnifier to find that information. Those were just some examples of what a student might experience, or imagine another employee or someone who's looking at our website. And that is a barrier, and we want to try to remove the barriers from anyone who is accessing any of our content. Let me give you some real scenarios that happen on our campus every day. Imagine you have a student using a screen reader who can't navigate your PDF syllabus because it's just a scanned image. Maybe you've created a website with light gray text on a white background, and an employee with low vision literally cannot read it. You've recorded a lecture that's critical for your class, but a deaf student misses the key concept because there are no captions. Imagine a technician with a motor impairment who can't fill out your online work order form because it only works with a mouse, not a keyboard. Think about a new employee trying to complete mandatory safety training, but the video doesn't have captions and they're in a noisy environment. Or someone with dyslexia trying to read your email announcement that's all in caps. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. This is happening right now on our campus. Now, I need to be clear about something. Accessibility isn't just a nice thing to do, it's required by law. The Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, applies to all public institutions and their employees. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act requires accessibility for any institution receiving federal funding. And that includes not just student facing content, but internal communication forms, training materials, and all public facing content. OCR complaints, that's the Office for Civil Rights, are increasing every year. Institutions are being held accountable, and the consequences can be significant. But here's what really I want you to hear. Beyond legal compliance, this is about doing the right thing. We're in education. Our mission is to provide access to information and opportunity. When we create barriers, even unintentionally, we're working against our own mission. And here's the good news. You've probably already been doing some of this, maybe even a lot of this. You might already be adding captions to videos or using heading in documents. What we're doing today is just helping you do it more consistently and more effectively. One of my favorite things about accessibility is that when we design for people with disabilities, we end up helping everyone. This is called universal design. Let's talk about captions as an example. Yes, captions are essential for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, but who else benefits? Students studying in noisy coffee shops? Staff watching training videos in a loud work environment, like a maintenance shop or facilities area? Employees in open office spaces? Non native English speakers who process written information better? Anyone who is distracted or tired? I use captions all the time, and my hearing is fine. I just focus better when I can read along. What about clear headings in documents? Sure, screen readers rely on headings to navigate, but so does everyone else when they're scanning a long document. Students studying for exams use headings to find information quickly. Staff reading policy documents or procedure manuals need to jump to specific sections. Technicians looking for specific instructions on a 50-page manual don't want to scroll through everything. Good document structure helps everyone work more efficiently. And color contrast. This is a big one. When we use sufficient contrast between text and background, we're helping people using phones or tablets outside in sunlight. And that's a lot of our facilities, grounds work, and our students. Older adults who have aging vision. Anyone with a headache or tired eyes, which is all of us at some point. Staff working long hours on computers or even in varying lighting conditions. The bottom line is this: accessible design is just good design. Now that you understand the why accessibility matters, let's focus on what you need to know. So, we're going to cover accessibility principles, Microsoft Office demos, some web based tools, and I'm going to give you a few hands on examples. So, accessibility might seem a bit overwhelming at first. There's a lot to learn, but I'm going to simplify this for you. If you focus on these 5 things, you'll address the majority of accessibility issues. Number 1, images need descriptions. This is called alt text or alternative text. When someone uses a screen reader, that software that reads the contents of the web page or the document out loud, the screen reader needs to know what's in the image and how it relates to the content that is also within the page that the image is on. Without alt text, the screen reader just says image, or worse, it reads the file name image underscore 073.2 JPEG. That's really not helpful. So here's the rule. If the image contains information, describe it. If it's just decorative, like a border, a design, then you can mark it as decorative so the screen reader skips it. For example, if you have a photo of campus with no specific information, that might be decorative. But if you have a chart showing enrollment trends or a diagram showing emergency exit routes, that does need a description. Number two, videos need captions. This is actually required by law for educational institutions, and it applies to all videos, course lectures, training materials, safety procedures, instructional content, everything. Now, the good news is that auto captions have gotten much better. YouTube, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, they all generate automated captions, but this is important. Auto captions make mistakes and they're not good enough. They mess up technical terms, names, and anything that's not clearly enunciated. So, auto captions are a great starting point, but you need to review them and edit them. And we'll talk about how to do that in a moment. Number three, use real headings, not just big, bold text. Here's a common mistake. Someone wants to create a heading in a document, so they just make the text bigger and bold. Visually, it looks like a heading, but to a screen reader, it's just big, bold text. Real headings use heading styles H1, H2, H3, and so on. Think of headings like a table of contents for your document. Screen readers use those headings to navigate. A user can press a key and jump from heading to heading, which is much faster than listening to every single word. And there's logical order. H1 is your main title, H2 are your main sections, H3 is subsections under H2. Don't skip levels either. Don't go from H1 to H3. It's like creating an outline. You wouldn't skip from a Roman numeral 1 to a lowercase a. Let's go to number 4. Links should make sense out of content and out of context. Screen readers often navigate by pulling up a list of all links on a page and jumping directly to the one they want. So if all your links say click here or read more or download, that's not helpful. Instead, make your link descriptive text, not click here for the course catalog. Instead, download the Fall 2025 Course Catalog PFD, not click here for emergency procedures. Instead, view the emergency procedures guide. This is especially important for work orders, forms, and procedure documents where people need to find specific information quickly. Number 5, check your color contrast. Light gray text on a white background might look clean and modern, but many people can't read it. There are actual standards for this. The contrast ratio between your text and background needs to meet certain minimums. The good news? There are free tools that check this for you in about 5 seconds. I'm going to show you one in just a few minutes. Dark text on a light background or light text on a dark background usually works very well. It's when you start using subtle or low contrast color combinations that you can run into trouble. So let's recap the big 5. Images need alt text. Videos need captions. Use real headings and make links descriptive. Check your color contrast. If you focus on these 5 things, you're well on your way to creating accessible content. Now let's talk about Microsoft Office accessibility. All right, we're going to get practical. I'm going to show you tools that you can use right now, starting with Microsoft Office, which almost everybody has if everybody's not using. So we're going to start with Microsoft Word. I'm going to talk about where to find the accessibility checker, running the checker on a sample document, and then showing you how to fix the errors. Let's take a look at that now. Okay, I have Microsoft Word open here, and I've created a sample document that has some accessibility problems, and it's intentional, but I want to show you what the accessibility checker finds. First, let me show you where to find the accessibility checker. I'm going to go to Review at the top of Word, and now I'm going to click on Check Accessibility. If you notice on the far right, the panel opens, and now look what it found. It's showing me errors and warnings. Errors are serious issues that make content inaccessible. Warnings are things that might be problematic. And you'll also see tips, which are suggestions for best practices. Let's look at the first error, which we're going to start with missing alt text. It's telling me that I have an image without missing alt text. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now I can enter the description if I want, or I can also right click on the image and view the alt text. Notice that Microsoft also has a generate alt text for me as an option. A sign with a running person in the middle, but it doesn't say that it is an exit sign. So I might add showing how to exit. And then I can save that. And that is the alt text is done. Now that we've fixed that alt text, let's take a look at a few more things. As you can see, this looks and appears that it has some kind of structure. But if I highlight this, I see that the style is still normal. So I'm going to go ahead and choose heading. Now I've changed the heading, and so if I run the accessibility checker now, it's saying that it doesn't find anything, which is a good clue to you that you can't always go with technology, because there are a few more things that I want to talk about. So for example, if we look at this information here, click here, we see that that is not a descriptive link, and we've already talked about how links need to be descriptive. But this would be considered above this. This would be a secondary kind of heading. So we don't want this to be a bold font and just a different size. We want to make sure that, and as we're starting to build this, you're going to see over here in the navigation how it's kind of building out the table of contents. Now we have some bullets, and those are okay. And we have another image. But now let's scroll down here to the table. So this table, as you can see, has, it appears that it's correct. But what it doesn't have is, if I click on table design, I see over here on the top left that it doesn't have a header row. So I want to go ahead and make sure that I check that box so that the screen reader will read it correctly. The next thing I want to do is, you see, I have another click here. And this bottom bar is, although it is pretty good as far as color contrast, we could make that even better by making the background dark and the text light. So because my screen is, and now this should be the correct way. So now we have black text on a white background, which is color contrast enough. So that's one thing that we can do in order to improve the accessibility of a Word doc. That takes about 2 minutes once you get used to it. But now let's look at PowerPoint really quickly. Here's a presentation with some images and text, and I'm just going to go ahead and find the Review tab again. And I'm going to choose to check accessibility here as well. So we can see that it has an issue, only show the current slide. So if I go ahead and move down, I notice that I have 9 places where there's missing alt text. There's also missing slide, title, and reading order problems. So if we click on that check object reading order, you can see where we are. We've got questions, email, text box 1, text box 2, welcome to safety training. So you can see that this is not the order we would actually read that in. We would probably change it around just a bit. So we can uncheck the box and we can move it up. And now we can make it welcome to safety training, and then we can move things around. And you notice that it also tells us that the picture does not have alt text. Now let's go to the chart. So if we're looking at this chart, first of all, we see there's a spelling error, but we also can tell right away that this text is way too light and we need to fix that. So if I want to go back and I want to look at the chart, and let's just do this by one slide at a time. So here we have the missing alt text. So this is your chart that we need to describe. So we don't just want to write chart in there. We want to make sure that it says exactly what the chart is. So if we click on the chart, we should be able to pull up the information that we built from the chart, and that's what we're going to put into the image for the chart. Again, you have the option to mark something as decorative if it is truly decorative. If we move to this slide, you can see that there's the reading order issues again, and there's missing alt text on all three of those captions. Again, and you're going to right click on there and you can view the alt text, and you can choose to have it automatically do this for you. I would remove this next piece, and then I would go ahead and approve the alt text, and then you can move on. So you can take each of these and you can click on them either over in the right side, or you can right click and view alt text, and then it will generate for you. Then you just need to approve it and you can move on. And if we get to the last slide, you're going to see all four images are missing alt text and the reading order is not appropriate. So if I click again on the check object reading order, you can see now exactly how a screen reader would read the order on the slide. That's not the slide. That's not the order that we would want to read it in. So that's exactly what we would want to do. So just a quick review for PowerPoint. Run the accessibility checker. Make sure you add alt text to images and charts. Use proper slide title structure. Check the reading order of slide elements and avoid click here in the links. The key thing is always run the accessibility checker before you finalize your presentation. It's right there in the review tab. Let's take some time and now look at Microsoft Office. Office has many and the same tools that Word and PowerPoint have, but you may find a little bit different when you're in Office. You want to make sure that you always do a very clear subject. You don't want it to be ambiguous to anybody who may be using a screen reader to hear it. When you start the body of your email, you're going to want to go ahead and use the styles if it has numerous sections. If it's simply a paragraph or two that is very understandable without needing sections, you don't have to use the headings. But the headings, again, are going to be found in the ribbon under Styles, and you can go ahead and click on heading 1. Now, in Office, you can add in things like tables. When you're adding in a table, if I add in a 3x3 table, what is a little bit different is when we were in Word and we typed in the information, now we have information in our table. But what I know is that I did not define the header row or the column. To do that in Outlook, you're going to go ahead and click on the table options, and then you can choose table. You notice I chose header row. Now, if I wanted to uncheck that, I could also simply go to options, and now you can find the accessibility checker. Um, Tables must use header rows. So you can see that I'm going to have to fix this. And I just chose fix this for me, and it did. So when you're inserting a table, make sure that you do choose that row, especially if you're putting in lots of information into a table in an email. Now let's talk about adding pictures. Now, pictures are either in your signature or within the body of the email. Remember that alt text is required, and it should be related to what is in the body of the email or is in relation to the content. So if I click on this image and I right click, I can add the alternative text. And now I have the alt text in there. So I have put in headings, I've put in a table, I've also put in an image with alt text. If you go to your signature and I click on signatures, once you're in Outlook, the first thing you need to do is make sure you give your signature a name, and then you can put your information in. After you put your information in, if you want to add an image, just click on the Insert Image inline. Now, my computer's giving me some issues, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to paste in an image. And obviously, it's a broken image, but that's okay because I'm just want to show you how to use the alt text. So from here, you can right click on this and add the alternative text, or you can click on the image, click the three dots, and then now you have the option in this little menu over here to also add the alt text. So from here, you can right click, add the alternative text, and click OK. Now that's how you would put in your signature in an image with alt text. And remember, if you have a hyperlink, whatever the hyperlink is, you want to make sure that you put in the appropriate description. If it is something like join my office hours, you can put that information, highlight that, and you can click on the link option, and then you can put in the web address for the URL. So when you're in your email, you want to make sure that you have used alt text for any images, you've properly put headers in your table, that you have put any links as descriptive links, and if you have any kind of long information, and make sure that you have structured it correctly by using the styles. Hope this was helpful. So here's a little summary. Running the accessibility checker in Outlook, making sure you add alt text to any inline images, and don't forget, if you have an image in your signature, you also need to make sure that that has alt text. Fixing any links that you may have labeled click here, avoiding all caps text, checking the color contrast, and reviewing the attached documents. So here are your email accessibility quick tips. Keep it simple and avoid complex layouts and use plain formatting. Check your attachments as well, making sure that they are accessible. Use descriptive links. Yes, view fall schedule PDF is much better than click here. Good contrast. Avoid light gray text, period. Always use dark text on light background or reverse. And heading styles, not just bold text or big font, but use the heading styles in Outlook. And finally, make sure that your alt text is descriptive or marked as decorative. Creating accessible PDFs from Word. Let's start with a Word document. Here's the most important thing I can tell you about PDFs. If you're creating a PDF from scratch, start with an accessible Word document. We just learned how to do that with the accessibility checker. Now let me show you how to export it as an accessible PDF. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Save As. I'll choose where to save it. I'm going to go ahead and save it to my PC. One last thing with Office. This Word document and making it a PDF. The most important thing I can tell you about PDFs is if you're creating a PDF from scratch, start with an accessible Word document. We just learned how to do that with the accessibility checker. Now let me show you how to export it as an accessible PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Save As. Now I'm going to go ahead and choose on the drop down to change this to a PDF. Now I'm going to click on Browse. And from here, I'm going to choose to put this in my documents. And now I'm going to click on this Options button. That Options button is essential. Here is where you're going to look for and make sure that that box that is checked, document structure tags for accessibility, that has to be checked. This tells Word to include all of the structural information, the headings, the alt text, the reading order in the PDF. Without this, you just get a flat image and a screen reader can't navigate it properly. So once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then I can click Save. And it's telling me that because I've already saved it once, but that's okay. So if I had open this now in Adobe, I can test it if I have Adobe Pro. And let's see what that looks like using a free PDF checker. This is a free accessibility checker. I'm going to go ahead and click on Upload File. And now you can see that it is processing. So it's telling me that it was already able to auto-correct 21 issues, as well as I could edit this and make sure that it has a title, Q&A from. And if I want to click on the issue details, now you can see this has one page that is one thing that is still here. And if I click on the little tag, I'm able to see that it has a missing link. It says this needs an alternative description. So it needs to have a different one. This one also has the same thing. So I can see that these links have been, I would need to fix them. You can fix them here if you want in pave.-pdf.org, or if you have Adobe, you can fix them there. Once you've done that, you can also check the reading order and make sure that it is the way it's supposed to be. And if you're not sure, this is how it is going through, and you can see where it's a paragraph and where it is a heading. So at the beginning of this, you can see that it does allow you to download the document. There are still some problems. You can also fix the issues within this platform. So I wanted to give you a free option. And again, this is called PAVE, PAVE PDF.org. And this is a free accessibility checker. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you with PDFs and converting them is I'm going to show you the easiest way to convert a PDF into HTML. I'm using Claude AI to do this. I'm going to go ahead and upload the file that I've been using that is a PDF, and I'm going to leave that file there. Please convert this to HTML. And that's all I'm going to tell it. Sometimes it takes just a minute, and it's going to draft the artifact. And as you can see, it writes out the coding very, very fast. Okay, so now that we have the information in this form, obviously you can see up here at the top, I have a publish button, I have a copy button, here, right here toward the top center, I have the option to toggle it to just the code, and then I could copy just the code. So if you notice, now this document is much easier to read, and on a screen reader it would perfectly read without any issues, and there would be no problem. And notice that it also made all of the links descriptive, and I didn't have to do anything. So that's another way that you can get a PDF into an accessible form for students. So here's a quick review. Start with an accessible Word document, then export settings, save as a PDF, and make sure that you check that options box where it says the tags will remain. Do not scan paper documents, and when you can, try to choose HTML instead of PDF. So that's it for Microsoft Office. Those are the key points. Use the accessibility checker in the review tab, which can be found in Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook. Fix the issues and export the PDF with the accessibility options checked. Finally, check your emails before sending, especially for images, links, and any attachments. Now let's look at some free web-based tools. These do not require any installation. You just need to go to a website to use them. I'm going to show you two: the WebAIM Contrast Checker and the Wave Web Accessibility Evaluator. Here we are in my browser, and you can see that I'm on a website called WebAIM Resources Contrast Checker. See these color pickers? The top one is for your text color, which it says foreground, and the other one is the background color. So let's test something I see all the time. I'm gonna put in something like this, and then I'm gonna make my background white. But now you see that my contrast ratio is 2.84 to 1. And you can see that it fails all of the things. And if you notice, you can see that it's really easy to figure out. I could also come over here and now use these sliders, and I can see if I can make this pass. And notice that by using the slider, I can come up with a pass rate. And notice that I still didn't pass here because of the normal text size. But if I slide it all the way down, now I've gotten it to pass in all of the areas. So we want to try to make sure that we get everything to a pass. So let's say you want to use blue for your text. So now I have a blue. If I use this on a white background, oops, didn't have enough F's. Now I can see that, well, it sort of passes, but not quite all of them. So what I could do again is use my slider, and I could make the text darker, and now you can see it passes. I also, if you noticed before when I chose the black, that didn't pass at all. The point is, this tool took 5 seconds to use, and it tells you definitely whether your color choices are accessible. There's really no guessing. So I hope that you will bookmark this page and choose colors for a website or any kind of document or poster, anything else. Please check out the color contrast. Now I want to show you another tool that you can use online. This tool is called the Wave Web Accessibility Evaluator. This tool analyzes entire web pages and shows you accessibility issues. So I'm going to go, this web address is wave.webaim.org. And here we are now. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a web address for a website, and I'm going to click on the arrow. It takes just a minute for it to load. Now, there's a lot of information here, but don't panic. Let me explain what you're seeing. On the left side, you see a summary. These icons tell you what Wave found. Red icons are errors, things that definitely create barriers to readability. Yellow icons are alerts, things that might be problems and need a manual review. And green icons are features that accessibility features are present. On the right side of Wave, you can also see that it has annotated the actual web page. So you can hover over each of these and click, and it's going to tell you what the error is. There are several errors here that you can see, and a lot of them, it says an empty form label. This is navigation element is present. So when you can see the blue ones, you see that blue is appropriate. But if I scroll down here a little bit farther, you're going to see lots of things that are marked. This is a photo, and it does have alt text because you can see the alt text. If I see and also there are contrast errors here, you can choose in this left panel, you can look at the details, you can look at the order so that you can see the reading order, you can look at the structure, and then you can look at the contrast. And notice that it gives you the same little tool that we just looked at before. This is a lot of information, but again, you can simply look at the summary and decide whether or not you want to figure out if there are things that you want to fix on your website, or if there are things that somebody else needs to fix on a website that you may be visiting, or maybe that is part of maybe publisher content. So there are a lot of errors on this page, but there are more alerts than anything else. And most of these alerts, it says that the device-dependent event handler is present but may not be accessible. It even gives you a little bit of a reference as to what that means and how a screen reader would fix it, or how it would see it, not fix it. If Wave says click here or read more, it flags them as suspicious. So if there is something in a website that has click here or read more, the reason that it flags it as suspicious is because it doesn't describe where the link goes. This is an alert, not an error, because sometimes those links are okay, but they should be more descriptive. Now, the green items, which are listed, which are features, these are good things. And if you click on any of the features, you can see that it has all of the alt text and the forms are labeled for this example. And finally, if you look at the structure view, you can see here that it is actually giving you the headings. And you can see that here there were some headings that were skipped. So you would want to make sure that you fixed those things. So that's Wave, and it's an incredibly powerful tool. And it is completely free. You don't need to install anything. You can use it to check any kind of web page. Now, I know like this seems a lot of information on the screen, and when you first use Wave, just kind of look at the red errors, then fix those, and then work on alerts, and don't try to fix everything at once. And here's something else. No automated tool catches everything, and we saw that with a little bit in Microsoft Word. Wave is excellent, but it can't test everything. For example, it can't tell you if your alt text is actually describing the image well. It can only tell you if alt text exists. It can't tell you if your videos are captioned accurately, only if they're present. So use these tools, but also use your judgment. Think about your users. Who would this make sense to someone who can't see the screen? Would this make sense to someone who can't hear the audio? Would this make sense to someone who's only using a keyboard? All right, we've covered a lot. Let's talk about what you can do now, this week, to start making your content more accessible. Here are 3 things I would like for you to do. Try the accessibility checker. Take one document you've created, a Word file, a PowerPoint presentation, whatever, and run the accessibility checker on it. See what it finds. Fix 1 or 2 issues. See if it missed anything. See if you're smarter than the tool and fix them yourself before you run it. That's it. Just get comfortable with the tool. Number 2, bookmark some tools. Bookmark the wave.webaim.org and the webaim.org resources contrast checker. Put them in your toolbar where you can see them. The tools don't help if you forget they exist. And the biggest one of all is start small. Pick one thing to improve this week. Maybe it's adding alt text to the images in your most used document. Maybe it's checking the contrast in your email signature. Maybe it's making sure that your signature image has alt text. Maybe it's adding captions to one training video. Just one thing. Don't try to fix everything at once. You didn't create these barriers overnight, and you're not going to fix them overnight, and nor do you have to. Remember these key points. You don't need to be perfect immediately. It's progress over perfection. Start small. One document, one web page, one email, one video at a time. Every little improvement helps, whether you're teaching, managing a website, creating procedures, or sending communications. Accessibility applies to your work, and even a small change makes a difference. You are helping the entire campus community. Students, colleagues, visitors, and everyone. If you have any questions after watching this, please reach out. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to working with you again at the end of October.